Welcome to the Celestial Saga channel. They thought humanity was primitive until they kidnapped the wrong children. Now the whole galaxy will find out what the wrath of parents who know how quantum technology works means. Watch to the end to see how absurdity turns into the most epic revenge. Captain Arlo, the specimens are ready for review, announced Chief Science Officer Leora, her translucent tentacles rippling with excitement as she handed over the holographic display. Captain Arlo adjusted his sensory nodes and studied the floating images before him. The research vessel Eternal Knowledge had been monitoring this remote solar system for nearly 3 standard cycles. His mandibles clicked in amusement as he sifted through recordings of the target species. "These humans are fascinating creatures," he mused, pausing on footage showing a gathering of small humans. "Look at how they cluster together, their offspring placed in designated areas for communal education and recreation. They call it a summer camp." Leora bobbed in agreement, her crystalline exoskeleton catching the soft purple glow of the bridge. Such predictable behavior patterns. The young ones stay in fixed locations, minimally supervised. It's almost as if they're inviting us to collect specimens. The Eternal Knowledge's bridge hummed with the quiet efficiency of one of the galaxy's most advanced research vessels. Screens displayed vital data about Earth's atmosphere, gravitational fields, and security systems, all laughably primitive by Cran standards. The ship's quantum computers had cracked their global defense network in less than a microsecond. "Have you reviewed the psychological assessment, Commander Darien?" came the voice from across the room. His upper eyes remained fixed on the tactical displays while his lower set examined security protocols. The veteran security officer had overseen hundreds of specimen collections, but something about this mission made his dorsal spines twitch. "Of course," Arlo replied, his mandibles forming what could be considered a smile among his species. "The humans are barely a level 2 civilization. They've just reached their own moon. Their technology is laughably basic. They still rely on combustion engines and silicon-based computing." He paused, letting out a high-pitched trill of amusement. "They don't even have unified planetary governance." "But sir," Darien persisted. Arlo cut him off, his scales flushing orange in dismissal. "Always seeing threats in primitive species. Do I need to remind you that we Cran have been conducting xenical research for over 10,000 years? Our containment methods are flawless." Leora gestured to another hologram, this one showing detailed scans of human biology. "They're not even particularly durable. No natural armor, minimal sensory capabilities, and their neural processes are laughably slow. The only noteworthy feature is their unusual pack bonding behavior, especially with their young. Precisely why we'll focus on collecting juvenile specimens," Arlo declared. "Their social structures make them ideal for study, and with our memory suppression technology, they won't even remember being taken." The captain's forearms moved in perfect synchronization as he authorized the final mission parameters. "Prepare the collection vessels. We'll start with the facility designated Camp Pine Lake. 20 specimens should provide an adequate sample." Darien's spines rippled again. "Sir, perhaps we should reconsider." "The decision is final, Commander," Arlo said firmly. "These humans are barely more advanced than their own planet's primates. What could they possibly do to the most advanced species in the galaxy?" As the crew began their preparations, none of them noticed the small alert flashing in the corner of their tactical display. Something about humans having an extreme response to threats against their offspring. But surely that wouldn't be relevant. After all, what could a primitive species understand about real warfare? The Eternal Knowledge's engines hummed as it prepared to make history. Unfortunately for its crew, it would indeed make history. But not in the way they expected. Cold, my mom's a quantum physicist, and my dad's in Delta Force. After the last alien abduction scare, they injected tracking nanites into my bloodstream. You guys are totally screwed. Alarms erupted across the bridge, and the tactical display flashed with readings that defied belief. In just 3 minutes since the abduction, humanity's entire military structure had shifted from peaceful readiness to full-on war footing. Satellites were repositioning, missile silos were opening, and most troubling of all, energy signatures spiked in patterns that suggested humanity's technological potential had been severely underestimated. "Sir," Commander Darien's spine stood fully erect, signaling alarm. "We're receiving transmissions, thousands of them. Not just military, but civilian channels. Emergency broadcasts. Something called Amber Alerts. They already know the children are missing." "But the time dilation field," Arlo started to argue. his words trailing off in disbelief. Impossible, the memory suppression, Captain Leora cut him off, her tentacles writhing with growing anxiety. You need to see this. It's feeds from their global information network. They're all saying the same thing. The main screen was soon filled with a torrent of messages from something humans referred to as social media. Millions of posts, all tagged with the same hashtag, spreading with impossible speed. The Eternal Knowledge's engines powered up, preparing for emergency quantum transit. But Arlo couldn't shake the sinking feeling that it wouldn't be nearly quick enough. He had hoped to study humanity's response to threats against their young, and now it seemed like he was about to get a lesson he hadn't expected. Research Station Omega hung in the void, its crystalline towers shimmering under the cold light of distant stars. Inside the primary observation chamber, Chief Science Officer Leora watched the specimens with an increasing sense of unease. "Report," Arlo ordered, his scales shifting to a troubled purple hue. "They're cooperating," Leora said, her voice filled with confusion. "Too much. Look at specimen 12, Sophia Walker. She's leading the others through some sort of coordinated physical routine they call cheerleading." Through the quantum glass, they watched as Sophia guided the other children in synchronized movements. The specimens had been awake for 6 hours now, and instead of fear or confusion, they appeared to be organizing. "The memory suppression is definitely failing," Leora continued, "but they're not panicking. It's like they're preparing for something." A communication alert flashed. The massive screen was suddenly filled with the stern face of Grand Arbiter Silas of the Galactic Council. "Captain Arlo, you fool! Return the human offspring immediately." Arlo remained calm. "This is a standard research mission. The specimens are perfectly contained." "Contained?" The Arbiter's voice shrieked. "The humans have already breached 6 layers of quantum encryption to trace this transmission. In the last 12 hours, they've reverse-engineered 3 alien propulsion systems. The Zortha Empire tried to help you cover this up, but their entire cyber defense network was shredded in under 4 minutes. "Impossible," Arlo scoffed. "They're a level 2 civilization at best." "That's what we thought," said a new voice. A Mandari representative, Admiral Zane, appeared on screen. "Until we examined their entertainment archives, Captain, they have thousands of simulated scenarios about alien abductions. They've been preparing for something like this for centuries. They call it science fiction, but it's actually war games. They've already programmed their response to this exact situation hundreds of times." In the specimen chamber, Ethan Clark glanced directly at the hidden camera and waved. "Hey, Mom, if you're tracing this signal, they've got some pretty interesting quantum computers. Pretty basic stuff, but could be useful." The observation team froze. The cameras were behind ghost field barriers. There was no way he could have known they were there. "The specimens continue to show abnormal awareness," Leora noted in her log. "Their neural patterns are synchronized, like they're communicating, but our sensors detect nothing." "We implanted subcutaneous tracking devices," Sophia suddenly announced, apparently talking to no one. "Like an ET, but way better. Mom says the quantum signature should be reaching Alpha Centauri by now." Suddenly, the alarm systems blared. A junior officer dashed onto the bridge, his exoskeleton pale with fear. "Captain, we're detecting human vessels. Hundreds of them. They're not in normal space. They're using some kind of dimensional slip drive we've never seen before." "Let me guess," Ethan called out, his voice cheerful. "You're picking up the fleet now. Dad says they really pushed the development on the Lawrence Chen dark matter engine. Mom's design team had it ready in, 3 hours after your snatch and grab. Pretty cool, right?" The Galactic Council transmission crackled with static as more representatives joined the call. "The humans have contacted 47 species in the last 6 hours, a Zortha elder reported. They're offering trade deals, FTL drive designs in exchange for tactical support. Do you realize what you've done? You haven't just revealed a primitive species to the galaxy, you've unleashed a technological apocalypse." "They're recording this," Sophia sang out. "Every word, every scan. The quantum decryption team says thanks for all the data, by the way. Oh, and Ashley's mom wanted me to mention that the Cyber Warfare Division has full control of your life support systems. Just a heads up." Arlo's scales turned a sickly gray. "Certainly we can negotiate." "They're not interested in negotiating," Admiral Zane cut in. "We're reading thousands of ships now. Military vessels, civilian craft, something they call soccer mom space vans. They're all armed. They're all coming, and their only message is, give us back our kids, or find out exactly how many ways an angry human parent can take apart a space station." Did you know my mom wrote her thesis on quantum decomposition? Ethan finished. And my dad's really good at breaking things. The station shuddered. On every screen, every sensor, the void was now teeming with ships, human ships, and leading them. Oh, cool! Mom weaponized the minivan, Sophia exclaimed. She said she would. Soccer moms don't mess around. Leora glanced at her readings, then at the specimens, and finally at Arlo. Captain, sir, I believe we may have made a terrible mistake. You think? Ethan grinned. By the way, that weird feeling with your artificial gravity? That's probably Mom's quantum tunneling effect kicking in. Just a fair warning. You might want to grab something. As alarms blared and the station's quantum field began to unravel, Captain Arlo finally understood humanity's true technological level. They weren't primitive. They were simply waiting for the right motivation to unleash their true capabilities. Next time, Sophia suggested cheerfully, maybe don't mess with kids whose parents have PhDs in theoretical physics and black ops training. Just some friendly advice. The station shuddered once again. Outside, the darkness was filled with human ships, and they didn't look primitive at all. They're shockingly effective against advanced alien technology, Ethan Brady reported, his voice steady but with a hint of disbelief. His daughter Jenny was among the missing children. As a computer programmer, his skills had unexpectedly proved invaluable when cracking alien navigation systems. The power buildup in their quantum drive, nothing's happening. Dr. Chen, unfazed, replied coolly, that's not correct. She tapped a button on what suspiciously resembled a modified coffee maker, and the room hummed with the activation of the Wong-Martinez field disruptor. Let's see them try to quantum leap through that. Back on the station, Captain Arlo stared in growing horror as his escape routes were systematically shut down, one after another. His mind raced with disbelief. Why is this happening? A technician called out in a panic. The humans, they're posting all of our tactical data on something called Pinterest. They're sharing DIY instructions on how to defeat our weapons. The station rocked once more as another blast struck. The tactical computer quickly identified new ships flooding into the area. Minivan Squadron Alpha, PTA Assault Wing, Little League Parent Strike Force. The Davies-Peterson quantum torpedoes are ready, Captain, Michael O'Connor reported from his ship, the dance recital Revenge. Sarah's science fair project finally came in handy. The torpedoes hit with perfect precision, carving through the station's supposedly impenetrable armor as if it were paper. Arlo watched helplessly as the station's defenses were shredded, compartment by compartment. They're not trying to destroy us, Commander Darien muttered, dread creeping into his voice. They're dissecting us, learning with every hit. Every weapon is a prototype. Every strike provides new data. Honey, could you move your ship 3 degrees to the left? Dr. Laura Chen's voice came through the communication system. You're blocking my quantum scanner view of their power core. Thanks. It became clear to Arlo that these humans weren't just fighting. They were conducting real-time research. Each attack was followed by bursts of data analysis, and their next wave of weaponry was even more deadly. Status report on the children? General Taylor's voice came through, demanding an update from Earth Command. All children are safe and accounted for, came the reply. They've begun organizing resistance from within. Little Sophia taught 3 other kids how to rewire the containment fields. They're competing to see who can cause the most system failures. Captain Arlo looked on, helpless, as his mighty station was deconstructed by these so-called primitive creatures. Their ships moved with impeccable coordination, their weapons adapting and improving at a pace that defied comprehension. And worst of all, they seemed to be enjoying it. Look, I reversed the polarity on their shield generator, Dr. Chen's voice echoed through the compromised comm system. Just like in that show you love watching. That's great, dear, her husband replied nonchalantly. But remember, we're having dinner with the Andersons at 7. I'm just going to finish destabilizing their quantum core. The station's AI began to short-circuit as 3 different computer science parents uploaded viruses they'd created during their lunch breaks. Life support flickered and died as a high school science teacher's modified electromagnetic pulse knocked out the backup systems. Through it all, the children kept providing valuable intel. Mom, they're rerouting power through the auxiliary conduits, Sophia's voice rang out over the chaos. The access panel is right behind the thing that looks like a lava lamp. Thanks, sweetie. Don't forget to brush your teeth. As the command center crumbled around him, Captain Arlo had his epiphany. He hadn't captured specimens from a primitive species. He had taken the children of Earth's brightest minds, its fiercest warriors, and its most resourceful protectors. And in doing so, he had given humanity the motivation it needed to stop playing nice. "We surrender," Arlo broadcast, his voice shaking across all frequencies. "Oh, that's adorable," Rebecca Sullivan's voice crackled in response. "You think we're done learning about your technology?" The last thing Arlo saw before the systems failed entirely was a new message spreading across human communication channels: Parent-Teacher Conference. Somehow that hashtag was more terrifying than anything else. The Galactic Council chamber erupted into chaos as the human delegation entered. Dr. Laura Chen strode in confidently, flanked by Colonel Grant and Captain Jameson. Their hastily constructed spacesuits, somehow more advanced than anything the Council had seen, stood in stark contrast to the shock on the faces of the Council members. "You can't be here," Grand Arbiter Silas sputtered, unable to hide his panic. "This is a restricted chamber. Our security systems were designed by the Zork T," Laura interrupted, pulling out what looked like a modified tablet. "My book club reverse-engineered their entire network last Thursday, between chapters. Great book, by the way. Anyone here read The Art of War?" The chamber's quantum screens lit up with footage from across the galaxy. Cran research bases were falling, one after another, their technology dismantled by determined parents and modified minivans. Each defeat added to humanity's growing understanding of alien tech. "The Cran violated our children's safety," Lily Sullivan's voice was steely, almost cold. "We took that personally, very personally." A Mandari representative floated forward. "This goes beyond simple revenge. You're revolutionizing space travel. The Chen Martinez drive you developed to pursue them." "Oh, that old thing?" Laura waved dismissively. "That was just our first draft. You should see what the Robinson twins' parents came up with after their morning coffee. Did you know their mom runs a mechanic shop? There's fascinating stuff you can do with a turbocharger in quantum physics." The screens showed more footage of the Cran High Command falling back in terror as they watched their mighty warships hunted down by ships that, until a week ago, were used for grocery shopping and soccer practice. "They modified a waffle iron into a quantum scanner," a Cran admiral screeched. "Who does that?" "The Parker family," Captain Jameson responded. "Their youngest was really into cooking. Now they're really into cooking." Reports flooded in from across space. Cran allies were abandoning their positions faster than their shields could hold against the relentless assault of angry, determined moms. "The humans weaponized their social media networks," a Zortha elder reported in fear. "They're sharing tactical data through something called Instagram filters. We can't block their communications. They keep embedding classified intel in memes." On a distant space station, Sophia orchestrated yet another containment field failure. "Mom, they're trying to adapt their shields to the Parker-Wong frequency," Sophia called out. "Should I show the others how to build an EMP device from the vending machine?" "That's nice, dear. Don't forget to drink your milk." The Galactic Council watched in stunned silence as humanity's revenge fleet methodically dismantled the Cran Empire. Each engagement lasted mere minutes, with human ships attacking like a swarm of highly educated, incredibly angry bees. "We should note," Laura added casually, disassembling a piece of alien tech as she spoke, "that we've been quite restrained. We could have built much more effective weapons." "More effective?" Keck's translator struggled to grasp the concept. "Oh yes," Lily smiled. "But we're teaching the children about proportional response. It's an important lesson." The screens flickered again, showing the latest battle. A Cran dreadnought faced off against what appeared to be a modified food truck. The food truck won decisively. "It turns out," Captain Jameson explained, "that when you give a species enough movies about alien abductions, they get really good at planning for it. We've had entire generations grow up thinking about how to fight back. You just gave us a reason to implement those plans." A new alert flashed across the screen. The Cran leadership was attempting to escape into unknown space. They barely made it 3 light years before they were intercepted by the Carpool Combat Squadron. Did they really think they could outrun a group of parents who've spent years mastering the art of getting to multiple sports practices on time? Lily chuckled. Amateurs. The council chamber fell into stunned silence as humanity's true message became clear. They weren't just defending themselves. They were completely overhauling the way space travel, warfare, and technology worked, all while managing their day-to-day lives. "Well, Laura," Lily said with a casual smile, "about those sanctions against the Cian Empire." "You're asking for trade restrictions?" Cax inquired, his voice betraying a glimmer of hope. "Oh no," Lily replied. her smile widening. "We want their research data, all of it. Our kids' science fair is coming up, and we need some new project ideas." The entire galaxy watched in shock as humanity's relentless advance continued, driven by parental love and outrageously modified household gadgets. The Seans had wanted to understand human behavior, and well, they were certainly getting more than they bargained for. The last stronghold of the Cran, Deep Space Research Hub Prime, hung precariously near a dying star. Inside, Captain Arlo helplessly watched his final line of defense collapse as the human fleet approached. The humans had done it again. They'd modified their ships. They now resembled less like harmless minivans and more like arrows of vengeance. "Send this message to the humans," Arlo ordered, desperation creeping into his voice. "We still have 3 of their offspring. If they attack..." "Actually," Ethan's voice cut through the calm, "we've been free for hours. Mrs. Anderson taught us how to hack your door controls. Did you know she teaches kindergarten computer science?" The security feeds showed the children lounging in their former cell, casually snacking on food they'd somehow smuggled out of the station's quantum-locked storage units. "Your force fields were pretty cool," Sophia chimed in. "But my mom says your quantum harmonics were way off. We fixed them, though. Thanks for letting us practice." The human fleet, now at full attack formation, was led by the PTA Vengeance, its hull bristling with weapons that defied the very laws of physics in ways no one had ever imagined. "Final warning," Laura Chen's voice echoed through every communication system. "Though honestly, this is just a formality. The kids have already disabled your weapons and rerouted your life support through what used to be a coffee maker." Arlo stared at his tactical display in horror. Somehow, the children had transformed his entire research station into an impromptu science experiment. Half his systems were now running through jury-rigged human appliances, and they were working better than before. "Begin final approach," Lily commanded with cool precision. "Soccer Mom Squadron, take point. Band Parents Brigade, cover the flanks. Remember, we have piano lessons at 6. The station trembled as the first wave of attacks hit. The humans weren't just fighting, they were expertly dismantling the station, each burst of fire methodically disabling every defense. "Mom!" Ethan called out, his voice echoing through the chaos. "We rewired their quantum core like you showed us. Mrs. Wilson says it's way better than her son's science fair project from last year." The rescue teams breached the hull with flawless precision, led by parents who'd spent years perfecting the art of getting to multiple events on time. They moved through the station like a dance troupe, if that dance troupe was dismantling highly advanced alien technology. "I found the snack storage," Ashley proudly declared. "I even organized it by nutrition content, just like Dr. Sullivan taught us." Captain Arlo watched in disbelief as his once mighty research hub fell apart before him. An army of determined parents, each one wielding their everyday skills as weapons of war, dismantled his station. The PE teacher who'd transformed emergency evacuations into a perfectly executed relay race. The librarian who had cataloged every piece of Cran technology for future use. "Remember, kids," Laura casually reminded them, disabling the last security system with what looked suspiciously like a repurposed toaster. "What do we learn from this?" "Don't mess with Earth," the children chorused in unison. The station's surrender was logged and documented, courtesy of Sophia's dad, the accountant who turned out to be surprisingly adept at organizing space battles. As the families reunited, surrounded by the wreckage of the galaxy's most advanced research facility, Captain Arlo finally understood the truth. He hadn't been defeated by Earth's military, its technology, or even its weapons. He'd been defeated by soccer moms, dance dads, and parent-teacher conferences. And somehow that was far worse. The Galactic Council's emergency session was standing room only. Representatives from species across the galaxy had gathered to witness the signing of the Don't Mess with Human Kids Act, widely known as the fastest-passed legislation in galactic history. In the front row, Sophia and Ethan were sharing quantum candy with their new alien friends, occasionally suggesting improvements to the Council Chamber's outdated technology. "As our final act," Grand Arbiter KX began, "we officially recognize Earth as a Level 7 civilization." "Oh, that won't be necessary," Laura interrupted, still typing away on her tablet, where she was casually rewriting the laws of physics. "We're quite happy being underestimated. It makes soccer season more interesting." The Scions, now relegated to a single star system, watched in horror as humanity revolutionized galactic society with ease. Their research data had been thoroughly peer-reviewed by the PTA, their technology enhanced by book clubs and bowling teams. "We did learn one thing from this experience," Lily Sullivan addressed the council. "Our kids' science fair projects are going to be amazing this year." Across the galaxy, species rushed to update their threat assessments of Earth. The final report was simple: do not engage. They had turned minivans into warships and parent-teacher conferences into military operations. Their response to any threat against their young could best be described as enthusiastically excessive. As the Chen family headed home in their now heavily armed minivan, Ethan looked up from his homework: advanced quantum mechanics with a side of alien linguistics. "Hey, Mom," he asked, "can we stop for ice cream? I promised to show Sophia how to convert the sprinkle dispenser into a portable wormhole generator." Laura smiled. "Of course, honey. Just remember, no creating singularities before dinner." In the cold depths of space, the former Captain Arlo stared at his final research note. Conclusion: never mistake a species' patience for primitiveness, especially if they have parent-teacher associations. The galaxy would never be the same, but carpool would still run on schedule.